All right, folks, welcome back. For today's deep dive, we're going to be looking at something that's incredibly relevant for all you UPSC aspirants out there.
Absolutely. This one's a big one.
Yeah, so we're diving deep into this concept of the right to access justice in India.
And it's something that pops up time and time again in the mains exams, and you might even see it in the prelims too, so
Right, exactly.
pay attention.
Yeah, definitely keep those ears open. This is something you're going to want to know inside and out.
For sure. And what's really interesting is, this whole discussion has been reignited by a recent Supreme Court ruling, a pretty fascinating case.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. So apparently this case involved a petitioner who just kept on challenging his dismissal, like even after multiple courts had already ruled against him.
Yeah, it really raises some serious questions about how we can make sure everyone has that access to justice, but also how we prevent the legal system from getting, completely swamped with these frivolous cases that just clog up the whole works.
Right. It's like finding that balance between those two things.
Exactly, exactly. It's a delicate balance, and this is where the Supreme Court's ruling comes in. They made it crystal clear that while access to justice is a fundamental right, it's not an absolute right.
I see.
And they specifically highlighted how, these sorts of relentless, baseless petitions can actually end up harming the system as a whole.
Right, yeah.
It's like, imagine you go to the emergency room with a tiny little cut,
Yeah.
and meanwhile, there's someone having a heart attack in the next bed.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Those frivolous cases, they're taking up precious resources, time, and they delay justice for those who really desperately need it.
That's such a good analogy.
And this is where, those four components of access to justice that the Supreme Court laid out in the Anita Kushwa case, this is where they become absolutely critical.
Oh, yeah, the Anita Kushwa case. That's a landmark judgment. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are already familiar with it, but for those who need a quick refresher,
Yeah,
can you walk us through those four components?
of course. So first and foremost, you've got effective courts,
Right.
The judiciary has to actually be functional, efficient.
It has to work.
Yeah, exactly. Then you've got this idea of reasonable accessibility.
Right.
Like, we can't have courts that are so far off the beaten track that they're basically inaccessible to large chunks of the population.
It shouldn't be a trek just to, file
Yeah.
the simple motion or whatever.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's speedy adjudication. Justice delayed is justice denied,
Ugh, yes, absolutely. That's a big one.
And finally, we've got affordability. Like, the legal system can't be so expensive that it effectively shuts out the poor.
Right. It has to be accessible to everybody.
Absolutely.
So we've got these four components. They seem pretty straightforward, in theory.
Right.
But how does this recent ruling, how does it tie into the larger framework of the Indian Constitution?
Well, a number of articles in the Constitution directly address this, right?
Right.
So you've got Article 14, which guarantees equality before the law, and that naturally encompasses equal access to legal remedies.
Makes sense.
Then you've got Article 21, the right to life and liberty, which is, intrinsically linked to seeking justice.
Right. It's like you can't protect your life or your liberty if you can't seek justice when those rights are violated.
Exactly. It's fundamental.
Yeah.
And then we can't forget about Article 39A, which zeroes in on free legal aid.
Right.
This is so crucial for marginalized communities who might not have the resources to navigate the legal system,
Yeah. It's almost like the right to an attorney in the U.S.
Kind of, yeah. And what's interesting is this article actually led to some concrete action. The Legal Services Authorities Act of 1987 was a direct result of this article.
Oh, wow. Really? So it's not just theoretical. It actually led to something tangible.
Exactly. And this act led to the creation of NALESA, the National Legal Services Authority,
Right.
which plays this massive role in providing legal aid to those who need it most.
That's huge.
And then we've got initiatives like Look Adalats.
Oh, yeah. Look, Adalats, those are like aimed at faster dispute resolution, right?
Exactly. They try to make things more accessible, more efficient.
It's like small claims court,
Yeah.
but for everything.
Kind of. And then you even see technology being used to bridge the gap. Things like telelaw and e-lock Adalats.
Oh, wow. So they're really trying to use every tool in the toolbox to make this a reality.
You're trying.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of effort being put into this.
Yeah.
But, how effective are these initiatives in practice? Because the Indian legal system, it's known for being complex and sometimes incredibly slow.
Yeah. That's a really important point. While these initiatives are definitely steps in the right direction, they do face a number of challenges.
Like what?
Well, for instance, ALSA, They often struggle with a lack of funding and manpower.
Oh, that's never good.
Yeah, and that can impact the quality and the reach of their legal aid services.
I see.
Look-out-a-lots, while they're faster, they often lack the authority to enforce their decisions.
Yeah, that kind of undermines the whole point.
And then even with technology, digital literacy and access, those remain significant hurdles for a lot of people, especially in rural areas.
So it's like access to justice. It's not just about having these mechanisms in place. It's about making sure they actually work for everyone.
Exactly. It's a constant process of assessment and improvement.
Right, so we can just set it and forget it. It's something that needs constant attention.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about another really interesting aspect of access to justice in India, and that's public interest litigation, or PILs.
Yeah, PILs.
I have a feeling our listeners are pretty familiar with this concept, given how much attention it's gotten in recent years.
They've been really instrumental in broadening access to justice.
In what way?
Well, they allow any concerned citizen to file a case on behalf of the public good, even if they haven't been personally harmed,
Oh, that's interesting.
And this has been really powerful in addressing issues like environmental pollution,
Yeah.
human rights violations, consumer protection, all sorts of things.
So it's like giving a voice to the voiceless.
Exactly.
And I think we've seen some really landmark judgments come out of PILs, haven't we?
Well, absolutely, like the MC Mehta v. Union of India case from 1987.
Oh, yeah, the one that dealt with Delhi's pollution crisis.
Exactly. That case was a game changer. It really showed the power of PILs to bring about systemic change and hold even the government accountable.
Right, so it's not just about individuals. It's about using the legal system to address these broader societal issues.
Exactly.
But, I mean, PILs haven't been without controversy, right?
Of course not.
There's been a lot of talk about their potential for misuse.
Yeah, I mean, there are concerns about frivolous cases or even politically motivated cases being filed as PILs.
So it's like any tool can be used for good or for bad.
Exactly. And the judiciary has been trying to tighten the guidelines for filing PILs to prevent that very issue. But it's a tough balance to strike.
It sounds like ensuring true access to justice in India, it's a really complex issue.
It's multifaceted, yeah.
With no easy answers.
Definitely not.
So to sum it all up for our UPSC aspirants, access to justice, it's a fundamental right in India, enshrined in the Constitution, supported by a whole bunch of legal provisions and initiatives.
But it's not as simple as it sounds.
Right, it's this intricate web of legal principles, practical challenges, ongoing debates.
And for those of you prepping for the UPSC exams, don't just stick to those textbook definitions.
Deeper.
Analyze these judgments, understand the arguments for and against the different initiatives, critically evaluate how effective these mechanisms actually are in achieving true access to justice for everyone.
That's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
I think understanding these nuances, that's what's really going to give you an edge in those exams.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who want even more in-depth analysis on this recent Supreme Court ruling and other legal developments, be sure to check out Live Law.
They do some great work.
They really do.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into these crucial UPSC topics.
Yes, please do that.
And if you've got any burning questions or you want us to tackle a specific issue, leave a comment below. We love hearing from you.
We really do. All right. That's all for today, folks. Until next time.
See you later.